Today we're going to be looking at a top 16 cEDH list for Thada Adel Aquisitor. We did our research this time and it did top 16 Silicon Dynasty 2, so I'm curious about the deck and I want to take a look at it. Okay, Thada Adel Aquisitor is a 3-mana 2/2 Island Walk Merfolk Rogue, and then whenever Thada Adels deal combat damage to a player, you fetch their deck, exile an artifact face up, and then until end of turn, you can play that card. So my favorite thing to do with Thada Adel in my own Merfolk cEDH deck was to steal a Lion's Eye Diamond and not play it, so then the breached player can't do anything. So the interesting thing about this Thada Adel list is that somehow it top 16. So, like last time, we're going to be looking through the list for the first time together and figuring it out on the spot. Let's see. First of all, let's scroll. Oh, there's 2 planeswalkers. There's a Karn the Creator and there's a Tezzeret. We can untap 2 artifacts, and then we can also fetch an artifact. I'm going to assume because we're mono blue, we're going to be playing some sort of artifact combo. That's generally how mono blue skirts by or tries to win, which is playing Isochron Scepter, Dramatic Reversal, playing Urza, the High Artificer to play through your deck and then win with an Thassa's Oracle or whatever you want. I've seen players play Thoracle with Paradigm Shift or the other Thought Lash, which is another way to exile your library or get rid of your library. You can also play Leveler. So here we have Karn and there's a Tezzeret. Karn's actually pretty good. I generally like Karn because it's just very strong against artifact mana. But then the interesting thing about here is that I assume Thada Adel's always going to be tapped sideways, which means we're not going to be able to protect the Karn very well. So that's generally kind of the lists I generally like to play Karn in are lists that can block pretty well so that you can get Karn to stick around for a cycle or 2 and then win under the Karn effect. But here, I don't think we're going to be able to see that. We'll see more of the list in a bit, but that's just some notes I have. So going into this, I assume it's artifact combo. Now let's look at the creatures. Oh, interesting. We have Con Sphinx. Con Sphinx is cool. Gilded Drake is very good right now, especially while the Kinnan running around. Hullbreaker Horror. So Hullbreaker Horror is interesting because I think Hullbreaker Horror is something I really wanted to break or use more often in cEDH. I mean, other people have broken Hullbreaker Horror, but kind of the fantasy of Hullbreaker Horror or the lobster is that you're playing in the finals table against Brian Koval, and Brian Koval. Somehow he cloned himself 3 times, and then it's this kind of drawn out game where everyone's playing very conservatively, 7 cards of nothing but counter spells, and you're boom, Hullbreaker Horror. What are we gonna do? It says can't be countered, and then Sam Black kind of jumps in somehow into this pawn. It's subtlety, suck it. So I think the problem with Hullbreaker Horror is in general in all the lists I've played it in, it's just rots in your hand. Without a lot of mana acceleration, you actually can't play Hullbreaker Horror. But here, I'm also going to assume there's some sort of infinite mana loop with Hullbreaker Horror, or you're just playing it for control, but I assume that's what it's for. Also seeing Hullbreaker Horror and a Tezzeret, there has to be a mana vault here, there has to be a Grim Monolith. I might be surprised if maybe there's a Basalt. But I would be curious to see if there's a Thran Dynamo. That'd be interesting. Mausoleum Wanderer, great card. Love that they're playing this. In cEDH, we know there's kind of 2 things that are very important. One thing is being able to interact with the stack, obviously, because a lot of the game kind of ends up being decided by a strong stack exchange. Someone throws their win con onto the stack, and then under 2 Mystic Remorse, everyone's throwing blue spells against each other, drawing a bunch of cards and free casting a bunch of things until someone gets exhausted and gets tapped out or whatever, right? And Mausoleum Wanderer, addresses that part where it can help beat an instant or sorcery spell. But the other part that's important is that we know at the moment, cEDH kind of struggles with creature activations. So Kinnan's been doing very well, Tayum did kind of well recently. So without having a lot of curse totems, Mausoleum Wanderer is kind of a pretty powerful card because you get to bank that mana where that blue doesn't matter as much for a more crucial turn. So then later, when you are having that exchange, you basically have a well-timed Dispel, basically, if they're tapped out. That is very hard to beat with as being a creature activation. So, you can always Deflecting Swat it. There's a ton of things you could potentially do, but I like it. That's all I got to say. I think it's interesting. Mistcaller. Sacrifice until end of turn. If a non-turn creature would be in the battlefield and it wasn't cast, exile instead. That's pretty neat. I mean, like, that basically beats like all the green tutors, you know, Finale and stuff like that. What else does it matter for? I guess like Sisei tutoring stuff out, if you're cautious about that kind of effect. Reanimation effects. I guess for like a 1-drop blue merfolk, it's like good enough. Fimage is good. Phyrexian Metamorph. I actually like Phyrexian Metamorph a lot right now, given they're all the Kinnons out there, so I know clone effects are on the upswing. Metamorph is good because you can clone, you know, like a Seaboard Muse, or clone like a... not a Void Winnower, because you can't even. You can even if you activate Tezzeret and mine is Tezzeret and get out a Phyrexian Metamorph, and like, you can't even now. Suck it. Anyways, 3 mana clone effect. That's an artifact that can be transmute artifacted out. It's like pretty cool. It feeds a Dockside by 1, but who cares? Spellskite is good. Spellskite is important because I assume like the deck is, you know, here to do them. It's like Malcolm in the sense that you're here to mulligan for like a turn 1 Thada Adel. Past turn, next turn attack, take a mana crypt and take something else. Or like, you know, take a mana crypt, play the mana crypt, take another person's mana crypt, and like keep getting mana. Which actually, now that I think about it, Hullbreaker Horror. I think you can hit that now. Much better when you can get a mana vault every cycle, which also makes sense why there's Consfix. You know, now that we talk about it, maybe there should be more big blue spells in here, like Jin Cataxius and stuff. Or a Void Winnower. Okay, not my deck. We'll do it. I'll do my version later. Spellsight makes a lot of sense here because, you know, we're here to play Commander on turn 1. If you can follow up with a Spellskite on turn 2 or afterwards, just makes it more difficult, especially if you have a Con Sphinx as something you're trying to play. You know, Spellskite can protect it. This other thing, you know, because people are playing Phyrexian Metamorphs more, I think the fact that you can Thada Adel rip someone's Metamorph and copy a creature, I don't know, Thada Adel's like looking pretty good right now. Okay, next, Subtlety. Subtlety is underplayed. Subtlety can basically buy a whole turn. If your opponents sequence their turn where they're dependent on hitting a Dockside on that sequence, or, you know, like something else, like if they tapped out to play like a Dranith or tapped out for something else and you Subtlety them, you just made them waste 4 mana in the example of Dranith Magistrate, because basically they, you know, they spent their turn to do that. They had to redraw the card and spend 2 again to attempt it. So that disruption there is like pretty crucial, especially like in a game where a single turn cycle really changes like a lot, right? So in 1v1, Subtlety can be very backbreaking at the right time, and I think in 4-player it is more backbreaking because the turns are so much longer before it gets back to you. So if you really needed to stick a card at that time to do something and you can't, that's just like a massive loss. So I think Subtlety, you know, free card, can always hit commanders, a lot of great targets, and it just works. It's like, it's just a good card. So what else you can ask for? So here we see an Urza. You know, it's like what I said. There's a infinite mana combo here for sure. There's a Tezzeret, there's an Urza. Now the question, let's see if I'll get this right, is what infinite mana engine are we using here? I also see a Walking Ballista. Is there anything aside from Ice Crown Scepter? Basalt Rings? That seems really bad. Now we're down to sorceries, and this is where it gets interesting. It gets very interesting. Aqueduct's Will. So put a flood counter on target land. That land is an island in addition to other types. If you control Merfolk, draw a card. This is to make sure your Thada Adel always connects, and I love that this card is here. The reason why I really like this card is because basically just make sure that Thada Adel always connects, which is very important. Every cycle we can take an artifact and play it is pretty crucial. So being able to play this for 1 blue, great. Hidden Strings. Now I love this. I actually really like Hidden Strings. And the reason why Hidden Strings is here is a really smart reason. This deck will be playing the One Ring, but your opponents are playing the One Ring. And if your opponents are playing the One Ring, you're playing the One Ring, because Thada Adel is here to do one thing, and it's here to steal mana crypts, I assume, and also steal all the One Rings, right? So if you can reliably always get the One Ring on, like, let's say land mana crypt Thada Adel, turn 2 attack, play land the One Ring, turn 3 hidden strings it, very good. Hidden strings, Cypher onto Thada Adel, Aquatex whale someone's land, connect, untap, draw more cards. I mean, you're not going to win that game yet, but you'll be in a good spot. So I think the fact that we're seeing some twiddle cards here just shows like a very clear game plan, and I like that the designer is like in on it. Like, it's very clear they know what they're doing, and you know, are willing to play the cards that matches their game plan. It's great. Learn revealed makes sense. Retrace image, reveal a card from your hand, then put that card into play if it has the same name as a permanent play. That's hilarious. It's so funny. Wow. So the over under on basalt rings. So with cards like these, it makes this deck super cool because you can get like super parasitic and super metagamey with it, because you can basically just take like a basalt monolith and have one in your hand and then like put it into play. Wow, what a cool card. Seagate, yep, it's a land that draws you cards. Tempted by the Auric. For each opponent, gain up to 1 target creature, mana value 3 or less. It's 1 creature planeswalker. That's not bad. In 4-player, that's nuts, because basically you play 4 mana and get back like 9 mana's worth of stuff. And I think what is being demonstrated by this deck so far is that mana's not going to be a problem. There's a lot of like high mana things, or higher mana things like Consecrated Sphinx, Hullbreaker Horror, Subtlety you could technically hardcast, but I'm assuming that like these things like Lord Revealed, Seagate Restoration, while like other decks might just use it for the secondary mode of being able to like, you know, play on the backside and you just might as well have it, or like you're using it for ion cycling. I think the fact that Thada Adel can guarantee you free mana every single attack makes cards like these like much more playable. So that's neat. Transmute Artifact, great card. Now the question is, what else are you transmuting into? You could play stacks, but so far it does not seem like a stacks deck. But I would play a back to basics here, for sure. For sure. Maybe a Trinisphere. Okay. Instance. Makes sense. Alchemist Retrieval is a bounce. An offer you can refuse by interaction. Born upon a win. Not like a super big fan of Born upon a win here. But I guess we'll like see more cards. Because I guess like your excess mana allows you to like Born upon a win as a permanent or spell easier, because the tax doesn't matter as much to you. Like, I like Born upon a win, you know, obviously with Necropotence, that's like very powerful, but also just like in Thrasios decks, if you go infinite, you could just draw Born upon a win, then win at instant speed, which before, I really like Bruce Taro Thrasios because it allows you an instant speed win with swift reconfiguration. But Born upon a win just solves all your problems. Now you don't have to do like awful loops where you have to like figure out all of these cards. You just Born upon a win, draw your deck, bolt, endurance, bolt, or like whatever your win con is. Not super sold on it, but it's fine. Train of Vapor is great. Commandeer. Wow, that's cool. Very cool. So, I said we should be playing more free spells like this. And the great part about Commandeer here is, even though it's like very taxing to have to exile 2 blue cards, your commander rips an artifact every single turn. So imagine basically drawing an extra card on every cycle. So the effect of you losing 2 cards is, it's not great, but it's not as bad as like other decks would that aren't able to draw as many cards. So here you're not really drawing, but even if you have no cards in hand and nothing but mana, you can always swing someone, find like a Metamorph, find another artifact creature, and just like spend your mana to do something, right? So Commandeer is less backbreaking, I think, and probably pretty powerful. Cycryph, great. Daze, love that they're playing Daze. Delay, Disrupting Shoal, great. I'm loving this deck. Dramatic Reversal, yeah, okay. ISO Rev, done. Fierce Guardianship, Force Negation, Force of Will, March. Yep, makes sense. We have Mental Misstep, Mind Break Trap, Misdirection, all the free spells, Model the Mixture, Nexus of Fate. That's neat. Nexus of Fate. So, you know, we've been talking about how this deck probably uses big mana very well. And Nexus of Fate is interesting because the effect you're getting with Nexus of Fate, obviously you take an extra turn, but with your extra turn, you basically get an extra attack, right? With an extra attack, that's another permanent. So the benefit of Nexus of Fate is pretty strong. And I guess if you have an infinite mana loop with Urza, you can also just win with infinite turns by exiling all the cards in your library until you hit Nexus of Fate, cast it, goes to the graveyard, gets shuffled, and you can take infinite turns. So I guess it's a win con, but also not as a win con. It's pretty good. I'm trying to think if this deck would play Time Warp. I mean, we didn't see Time Warp, but maybe considerable, might be too much. Slip Out the Back. I really like this card. Again, we know that keeping Thada Adel in play and swinging every single turn and making our board better and better is very important, so playing cards like Slip Out the Back is great. You can also actually use this offensively and like phase out a meal while Ducks out on stack, and then like, you know, not let them have infinite mana on that turn. If they have Thrasios, it doesn't matter because then they'll just infinite the next turn or whatever. But, you know, let's say there's a stacks creature, you can also slip that creature for whatever reason, maybe Drenith Magistrate, so that you want to be able to play like the One Ring that you stole. You can do that. Snapback, more free spells, great. Spell Snare, really like Spell Snare. Stifle, I really like Stifle. Stifle can hit a Thassa's trigger, can hit a bunch of stuff. I think Stifle is just also good as like a wasteland because like we know cEDH players are extremely greedy with their land bases and we're willing to go down to 26. So being able to just take out a player with a Stifle is pretty good. I just think that's like much better than, you know, we used to give it credit for. So I found a lot of power playing Stifle in my Merfolk deck, so I just love Stifle. Submerge is cool, more free spells, and then Suspend. We have Arcane Signet, Chrome Mox here, Curse Totem. Okay, that's good. You know, hitting all the Kinnons, more people should be playing Curse Totem. We also have Defense Grid. Interesting. So I generally tell everyone to be playing Defense Grid, but Defense Grid here is really interesting because I don't know how easy it is for this deck to win. Because we don't have a lot of tutors, and for us to assemble Isorev and also assemble the infinite mana outlet, I guess like it really has to be the One Ring drawing. But even then, we don't have enough Twiddle cards here to like make sure that One Ring really draws you like a ton of cards. So I think it's interesting. I almost rather like just steal someone else's Defense Grid than rather than play yourself, because I don't think this deck can support that Defense Grid plan very well. Because we're mono blue, there's no sans effects, so maybe playing Defense Grid is correct. It's interesting. Filwar Stone, yep. Grafdigger's Cage, yep. Hate on all the Breach decks. Imposter Mech. This is a great card. I think just generally useful. We have Isochron Scepter. We don't have Basalt Monolith, so I was wrong on the Basalt Rings. Think about it. Jewel Lotus, yep. Lightning Greaves, yep. Does everything we need. Mana Crypt, Mana Vault, Manifold Key. Manifold Key is great because yeah, just untaps our vaults, I guess. But technically, like, it can make a creature unblockable, but Thada Adel has Island Walk, so I don't think it's like that useful. But you know, you can use it to add more mana, you know, go up on mana a little bit, like with the Mana Vault. With the Grim, there's no Grim. Okay. The other people are playing Grim. Can't forget, this deck plays other people's artifacts. Mox Opal, yeah, we're stealing artifacts. Soul Ring, the One Ring, Torpor Orb, yep. That's for the Docksides and the Thassa's Oracles. Because our deck is here to steal the One Ring every single game as fast as possible, Unwinding Clock seems pretty good, given that's our main plan. Weathered Runestone makes sense. Okay, enchantments. Oh, Mind Over Matter. All right. Okay. If you watch my The One Ring video, you can see that this is an infinite combo with the One Ring. Mind Over Matter. So this is like a legacy combo where you basically just discard a card and then untap the One Ring, draw more cards, and draw your deck. So For 6 mana, it's like pretty neat. As I said earlier, many times, I don't think this deck struggles with mana, so yeah, it makes sense. I do like that you don't need to draw your own rings since you're here to steal the one ring again, so pretty good. Dress Down's cool, Mystic Remora, Steel Enchantment, great, love it. Everyone's mulliganing for turn 1 Ristic, Mystic, so why not just take it, right? I think more people should be playing Steel Enchantment. It's a great card. And then we have 27 lands. Lands, we have E-Zone for instant speed, what? Inventor Sphere makes sense. 16 islands. This deck definitely needs to play it back to basics. Minamo, yep, we are the One Ring deck. We have this Depletion card to help us turbo something out, and Tarnished Citadel. Steal a Wish Claw. Yeah, I guess like you steal a Wish Claw, you want to make black, so you need to play Tarnished Citadel. You might as well. It's probably fine. I would actually just play Wasteland here too, for fun. What if someone's playing? No one's playing Crucible anymore, but still. I think being monocolored, you could probably get away with playing back to basics and Wasteland and effects like that and just beat them through mana denial too. While you're getting mana, if you also deny your opponents of mana and create this like gap of mana advantage, I think this deck, is pretty powerful, or can be pretty powerful that way. So like that's why I think Trinisphere is also like not the worst idea. Turn 1 Thada Adel, steal, crypt, Trinisphere, and then no one can play spells, attack someone else, take their mana crypt. That Trinisphere is asymmetrical to you. You're gonna have 6 mana or 5 mana by the time it's turn 3, and then like 7 mana or 8 mana by turn 4. So you're able to play more spells than your opponents, control things to protect things. I think it's worth exploring. But also, Thada Adel can find someone else's Trinisphere if there's stacks on the table. So the more like we talk about this, the more interesting this commander is actually, now that I think about it, because your commander can basically make like a pretty flexible game depending on what your pod has. So like if there's stacks and turbo, you can like rely on the stacks deck's library to control the turbo player, and then use a turbo player's deck for like more mana and like Wishclaw Talisman to find your own combo. Yeah, I don't think people are gonna read that. I don't think people are gonna see how the game's being played out that way. They're just gonna see like, oh, Thada Adel's being disruptive, until like the One Ring and you draw into Mind Over Matter, and then you like defend screen and win the game. So that's today's deck. The deck list is gonna be in the description box below. And yeah, I think it's a very cool deck. I'm kind of interested to brew my own now that like I've talked it through a little bit more and why I thought it was really interesting, and like the flexible game plan that you're able to potentially form is pretty unique. I'm not 100% sold on the combo outs here, but we can probably figure it out, or we can review like ways to like improve that, or maybe it's not even a problem. I just haven't even played the list. So who knows, right? But that's something I would look into. I would also definitely play some of the stacks that I talked about with Trinisphere, back to basics, stuff like that. I think the advantage that this deck has is all about mana. You can always hit your mana rocks, all the free mana rocks, and time is actually pretty powerful for you. So like maybe playing a Time Warp or something might be good, just to like chain more extra turns, get more mana, get more lands, and just be able to take like really big game actions. I think another interesting thing might just be like artifacts that can draw you cards or give you more actions or some effect, so that with all the mana that you have, you're also able to like consistently spend it and like push your board forward. Yeah, so anyways, thanks for watching. If you like this format, let me know. Lately, I haven't had a lot of time to like kind of edit the videos I have in the past, so I'm trying to use this format a little bit to still be able to talk about decks I think are really interesting, and also save on time in terms of scripting and like recording and editing and stuff like that. So if you like this, please let me know. If you don't like this, also let me know. Also down. So yeah, I'll see y'all next time.